2024. The zoning board of appeals for the town of New Canaan will come to order. When we call your case, we ask that each presenter come up to the lectern, identify themselves and the property in question, state the request of the board, and identify the hardship and the reasons for the request. Remember, your hardship cannot be financial in nature. It runs with the land and is peculiar to your property. The board will then ask questions of you, after which you will sit down and we will give those present a chance to speak. You will then be given an opportunity to answer any questions or sum up your request. We record the meeting, so everyone must speak into the microphone and state their names. The board will then go into a business session, discuss and make a decision. There are 5 voting members on the board, and it takes 4 positive votes to be granted a variance. You want to take attendance, starting with you, Alex?
Alex Snyder, present.
Brittany Singer, present.
Luke Tashin, present.
Rich Carity, present.
Chad Duke, present.
Christy Bonner, present.
The first item on the agenda tonight is 995 South Ave. That matter is being continued to January 6th, 2025, after the applicant's request. Now, the second matter is continued. The November meeting, 88 Richmond Hill Road, zoning variance upon application of Anthony Carpentieri, owners for a variance of section 3.5.8.3 to permit a sports court to be located within a side and rear yard setback, residence zone at 88 Richmond Hill Road, map K, block 10, lot 919. Yeah. Any Ritchie?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. David Ritchie here for the applicant, Anthony Carpentieri, who's joining me this evening, as well as the engineer, Tom Quinn, who's also come down from Georgetown to talk a little bit about the pre and post development. If you recall, the last time we were here for the sports court, one of the questions that came up was, what did this site look like beforehand? And why would you have needed to put in the retaining walls that were put in to put in this sports court? And if you recall, the site was developed, then a pool was put in the back. The client also then put in, after the pool was in, a sports court on the property, not realizing that the sports court was actually a sports court. He just thought you could put a basketball court sort of anywhere on his property. If you recall, this is right on Richmond Hill Road, so you have a steep drop off on the front of the property where you come in. And with that drop off, he didn't want basketballs in the front yard coming down the street into Richmond Hill. And this property, if you recall, also borders the Mead Park on 2 sides, both the east and the south of the property. It's up south against the tennis courts and east, sort of the driveway out onto Richmond Hill Road. So what I have in front of you right now is a copy of the pre-map, and it's not very clear in my slideshow, so I did add in a map into the sections that you guys have there. It's just blown up, and you'll note that when this property was first developed, you'll see that the property in and of itself was literally right up against the back part of the property. You can see right here that this lot's actually sat right beyond the rear, this structure sat beyond the rear setback. It was actually in the setback. In fact, it actually encroached on town property. There was a staircase that went in here, and there was also some driveway and other items back into this particular area. So when the site was actually developed initially, it became more conforming from the perspective of what's there today. This is just talking about the pre and post development. And you'll note that initially in the rear of the property, in the front of the property, you'd see a drop from about 282 to 274 in the rear and 285 to 276 in the front of the property. That's the way the topography sat on the property to begin with. So pre-development, this is basically what the builder was looking at. This front yard topography is what we're talking about initially. This is on slide 4. of what's in your packet right now. This is showing you how, when the site was developed, we have the driveway here in this area. It goes back out onto the street. You'll see that the grade drops from 279 to 275. That is actually the most amount that DPW would allow. So you can't even flatten this even more, even if you wanted to. That's the most you can do for as far as the driveway goes in the front yard. So DPW, this is the greatest that we can do. We could never make this any more level than we did. So the applicant, when he went forward with this and he didn't realize that a sports court or a basketball court in the rear of the property had to be within the setbacks. When he did install this into the setbacks, he brought in the retaining walls to hold back the property in order to put in the sports court. And that in and of itself, you can see here, these are the cross sections. This is actually what I wanted Tom Quinn to talk about, because that was sort of what some of the members were looking at the board to begin with, is to how this works. You know, what did you really need to do as far as a retaining wall goes? So maybe Tom, do you want to just, that I can scoot over.
How are you? Good evening. For the record, Tom Quinn, Peak Engineers. Office is located at 4 Old Mill Road, Reading, Connecticut. Licensed professional engineer. As David said, you guys have requested some additional information, as he was just saying, regarding the pre-activity condition, which would basically be summer of 2021, and then the condition of the site today. So my office went out there and we set up a transit and we shot some levels and got the existing elevations of the tops and bottoms of the walls, and so that I could draw these sections through the property. So if you look at section AA and B here, BB here, what they are is they're looking, sections are looking north-south. So it's as if you were standing on the uphill property, which is to the west, looking down toward the park property. So as you look through section AA, you will see that the adjoining property uphill was pitching onto this property, and the wall was constructed and the turf was there. So if you look at the, I'm sorry, section AA, sorry, I was describing CC first. Section AA is looking, like I said, towards the park, and it shows the property that's adjoining to the south. And the wall was constructed on the property line. That wall did not change any of the slopes on the adjoining property. It did not affect any of the drainage on the adjoining property. So therefore, it has no drainage impacts and so forth. That wall was constructed simply to provide a means of access around the pool for maintenance. And also the secondary benefit of that is it increases the turf area that's around the pool. So anyone who's not familiar, I don't think we described this the last meeting. The turf area all the way around the pool is constructed with sand underneath it and gravel. So it's highly permeable and definitely aids infiltration all around this site. So any of the water that's coming off the site from the west onto our property gets infiltrated rather than running through. So it's a benefit to this site as well as any down gradient sites that the site's impervious areas, permeable area has been increased. And as it was mentioned earlier tonight, when we did the soil testing for this property, this site's very permeable, a lot of bank run sand and gravel. So the construction of the turf was to help use the characteristic of the permeable soils. And that's why one of the reasons we went to the turf is that it greatly helped the drainage on the entire property. So the construction of that wall, just to summarize, the construction of the wall that's on the south side of the property is on the property line. It's about 2 feet tall. As you head towards the park, it's retaining about 1 foot of earth, which you can see in section BB. It's retaining about 1 foot of earth. It does stand up a little bit higher, but that's really for architectural reasons. It's only retaining 1 foot of earth. So that was done, like I said, to increase the maintenance area around the pool. And as you go to the next slide, CC. So this is a section running west, east through the property as if you were standing to the south, looking up towards the back of the house. And you can see that the land area from the adjoining property to the west, it slopes onto this property. And you can see where the wall was constructed. The face of the wall was constructed about 4 feet off the property line, 4.5 feet off the property line. The zoning regulations, as you all know, allows the wall to be constructed 8 feet off the property line. So what we're seeking really in this instance is a 3.5-foot variance for the construction of that wall. Again, that wall was constructed to allow, as you can see, it allows a 10-foot flat area around on the west side of the pool. It allows the maintenance, it allows recreational area, it increased that turf area. So once again, it takes the water that's coming from the property that's offsite to the west, and it aids in infiltration with that increased turf area. As you continue to
Does the water go over the wall? Or how
Yeah,
does
it
that- how does
flows-
that work?
it flows right over the top of that wall. Yeah, the wall is right at grade. As you continue to the right of that section CC, you'll see you run through the pool, you have a small patio area again, and then you have the wall that was constructed for the basketball court. The basketball court here is 25 feet wide. From the pool edge to the property line, we had about, I think there's 37 feet there. So with a 25-foot basketball court, and if we were to construct a wall 8 feet off that property line, then we would only end up with about 3.5 to 4 foot wide patio around that edge, the eastern edge of the pool. And that would be problematic for many reasons. Just having a 3-foot wide walkway, it's hard to maintain. And it would drop down onto the sport court. So placing the wall right on the property line, which is only 15 inches tall, allowed that larger patio, wider patio area to be constructed right next to the pool and still allow the 25-foot basketball court to be placed in. So as we talked about earlier tonight, and not just amongst ourselves, the zoning regulations do allow you to perform about 1 foot of grade change, mostly filling. In this case, you're allowed 1 foot within 5 feet of a property line. What the owner here has done is he's built a 15-inch tall wall along the property line. It doesn't impact anyone visually. It certainly doesn't have any drainage impacts. The one comment from the town engineer was that she would like to see a treatment along that face of that 15-inch tall wall, such that it doesn't require any maintenance by the parks people.
You're talking
So-
the wall on the Mead Park side now.
On the park side, it's 15 inches tall, and I don't know if we ever took a picture of that, but right now it just looks like gray masonry.
If
So
that wall is right on the line and you put a face down, isn't the wall gonna be on the town side then?
well, it could be, you mean like a veneer?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's actually right on the property line, or we do have a couple inches, but it could be stamped concrete, or it could be painted or something else. What the engineer was referencing is that she didn't want us to put a bunch of plantings there that would have to be maintained by the parks people. So she wanted us to come up with something else.
Yeah, we had originally proposed landscaping in that area, but that landscaping would have been partially on our property, partially on the town's property. And that was something that they didn't want to be there in case it wasn't maintained. And if you recall from the first slide that I showed you where the pre-development was, there was actually an encroachment of this particular lot onto that town property. So I think they were very happy to get that off for this particular.
So Attorney Rucci, the existing white fence and concrete wall on the Mead Park side, how far is that from the property line?
I think it's about a foot away from the property line. Can you tell on that schematic? On CC?
Oh,
Looks like.
I don't know if the surveyor actually has a called out dimension for that. And it's very, very hard to determine based on a visual of their map. So I couldn't tell you whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 inches, the face of that wall off the property line.
See, that's a concern if we're saying, and that came up at the last meeting, that stone veneer has to be put on that wall. And that stone veneer is then going to encroach onto the town property. How could we have that a condition of our?
Well, I think that any condition that you propose there would have to be a confirmation that we are not on the town's property. That anything that we do to put a veneer on or any other thing, maybe with the public works would be happy with, would not provide any issues with maintenance to the town, would not be the town's property. Yeah, obviously you can't approve that.
So you think there's room there, though? Like, you don't think that wall's right on the line?
I don't believe it is. I would say that if it's on the line, then that may be a condition that we'd have to move it back in order to put the veneer on in one way, shape or form.
It's like a poured concrete wall, or what's it made out of?
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Cinder block.
So, yeah,
Cinder block.
and that would be a job.
Yeah, that's my concern.
Well, I.
Put a condition on, and then you have to come back here next month, because.
Well, I mean, I completely agree with you that you can't put you can't allow for any sort of violation to occur. So I think that if that is on the property line, it would be up to the applicant to confirm that whatever veneer they put on is not going to be on the.
Couldn't you cut the cinder block in by 4 inches and just put the veneers on underneath?
You'd have to pull your whole wall out.
Why?
How are you gonna cut a cinder block in? You just hollow.
No, these are Nico lock cinder blocks, so we could fill it in with cement and create a filling and then veneer the outside of it so that it's all flush with the fence if you wanted it that way.
I think
Because
obviously.
the fence is on the property line and the veneers would be my responsibility on my property if I filled it in with concrete.
What the chairman saying is that if they do approve with any sort of condition, we would have to agree that whatever was on that property line would be moved either back any way, shape or form. We cannot encroach.
But the
on-
fence wouldn't have to be moved. It's only the cinder blocks underneath.
Correct.
So that's why I'm saying we could fill it in to a.
Yeah, it would be up to
enough
us. We don't have to determine it today, right this second, but that would be something that would be a condition.
I just don't want us to give a condition that's like an impossible condition.
Yeah.
For you to meet is my concern.
Well, it's something the public works requested, and it would be unfortunately up to the applicant whether it costs him money to bring it back a little bit, so that didn't happen. That would have to be something that we would have to live with. I'm sorry, did you have anything else?
No.
Yeah, Tom, before you go, Rich Carey too, just, I had the question, I noticed the last time there was that pipe, that PVC pipe coming out of the property that, facing the park, right? So in your backyard, facing the park. I was just curious, was that water coming from?
That was the pool drain down line, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we said that we're gonna connect that into our drainage galleries.
Okay.
So that was certainly another condition that would be acceptable, certainly to us on that. So getting, do you have anything else for the engineer?
No, I don't.
Is anyone else?
Engineer.
Okay.
So getting back to the hardships and that what we're requesting for in basically putting this sports court from the front yard into the backyard property line, on the property line and on and having the retaining walls is that once again, we have a topography problem on the property and putting something in the front yard versus the backyard. We think it's reasonable that we were able to use the backyard. Most of the other buildings and other properties on Richmond Hill utilize their backyard. That's sort of where all their activity is going to be, just based on the fact that they are on a hill and they are, it's sort of a dangerous road in the sense that you're going kind of up that hill and you have a lot of traffic on that hill during the days and certainly during any of the train times. We also believe that, based on the location of this property, it's unique in the sense that it is surrounded by Mead Park. And any of the use that's going on in this property is almost consistent with what's going on in the park. We also did agree that we would remove the light on the basketball court that's there today. We're also removing a rear part of the corner of the property that sits up, that's part turf now, that sits up against the that would be the south side where the tennis courts are and Mead Park. And then I don't have anything else to offer or to add at this point, Mr. Chairman, but certainly we can answer any more questions that you may have.
Is anyone on the board?
I guess my question would. Absolutely. My question relates to the specific hardship. Very clear what the topography is there in the front. But in terms of the specific hardship of having a variance on the setback in order to have a sport court that much wider, what is the specific hardship there that requires that extra number of feet on the sport court?
You mean as far as how large the court
As
is?
how large it is?
Yeah.
What is the hardship that requires?
So in the front yard, we would be able to use, the driveway itself. So there wouldn't necessarily need to be a sports court in that particular instance because we have a hard top. And it goes right up into the property lines and you can utilize the 25 feet or whatever the dimensions are of that. So in our particular case, moving it from the front, because we have the topography problem in the front, we're just trying to create the same type of sports court that we could potentially have in the front. Now, that being said, a sports court in the front would also actually need a special permit to be in there. It's,
If it was a sports court.
if it's a sports court, I know we talked a little bit about the actual,
Yeah.
whether I should have brought that up as an argument that, this board make as far as a basketball court and a sports court. We didn't. It's an interesting concept. I'm not sure how this board or P and Z would react to it, but specifically, we want to utilize and be able to put in a sports court, in this particular case, a basketball court, something that we could have done in the front yard had it not been for the grade change in the front yard. And that same dimensions of the court would have to be put into the backyard is my argument. And you couldn't do that in the backyard just based on the fact that it's so narrow in the back. And you have the pool there already, which you had to work around as far as being able to get in and around that pool.
Attorney Rucci, if you put it in the front yard pre-construction, you would have had a big area here to do it.
Well, actually, we couldn't because DPW only allows a certain amount of pitch on the property. So you would still have that 3-foot pitch. That's the best that we can do. We're not allowed to bring it up anymore. So we're not allowed to actually make that property flat in there. And I guess, Tom, if you want, Tom can talk a little.
Pre-construction, you're saying this couldn't have been built on the front?
It could not have been, that part of the property could not be flattened to a point where you would have a flat surface. You would still have the 3-foot pitch that we have in there according to DPW regulations.
So isn't that your hardship that you've made this property more conforming over time, clearly? Because this whole house that was out of the setback and now in a setback, which is a significant improvement.
True, that is true.
And that's one of the points of zoning, to get this more conforming over time. You did that. I mean, it's my view, having a basketball hoop in your driveway is normal. Not unusual. You couldn't put one here because it's gonna go onto the train tracks. I mean, the ball's gonna go at the driveway, someone's gonna go down onto the tracks.
Well, the tracks are actually above us.
Oh, above it.
But it
Okay,
would
it's gonna
go right
it's
down
gonna go
into
down
that
the hill into
Yeah.
Mead Park
It's gonna go down the
exit,
hill there.
yeah.
I mean, it seems to me there's a hardship to having something in the backyard to me with it's not an unusual, it's not like a tennis court in the front yard or something. It's a basketball hoop can't go in the driveway because it's going to roll down the driveway, which can't be leveled under the DPW policies into the road or whatever, and some.
But yeah, Rich Carey too. I'm still trying to wrap my arms around giving a hardship for a sports court. You got a pool, you have a sports court, you have your house, your garage. If this was because of the house, or 2-car garage, if I'm faced in front of a judge and the judge will say, well, why did you what's the hardship here? You allowed someone to have a pretty nice, basketball court that's somewhat within regulation. I mean, like, are we giving hardships so that people in this town can have luxurious basketball courts, as this is very nice, very nice. I mean, just the overall concept of a hardship for a sports court. The whole thing was thought about afterwards. I mean, if someone was developing this property, you had to understand you could have a pool or you could have a sports court. You can't have everything in life with the amount of money you paid for your lot. I just, if it was a house.
Someone came to me on day one and said, do you need a variance for this? I I really struggle to fit this within the definition of sports court. And
Do you
I
want me to
get,
share the definition with you all?
yeah, I've
'Cause
I've read it.
We've read it,
Yeah.
but-
We've read it, you know, and they talk about a fence around it. In this net, there's a fence around the property, there's a fence at the top of the wall, but it sounds to me like when they're describing a sports court, they're talking about like a tennis court, a hand court, something like the fence is not around this to enclose this. It seems to me like if they, this is why I kind of struggle with this, if they just paved down the side of this property and connected to the driveway, no, and didn't have paint on it, no one would have said anything. But the fact that it's not connected to the driveway and is painted like it,
not
we're
like we
saying
went through the
somehow,
last time. Yeah.
we're saying somehow that makes this a court.
So again, this all came about because we noticed the violation and we required that they either remove the court or apply for the variance, and they elected to apply for the variance. So we, staff believes that it is a sport court, and have concern if you all, set a precedent that this isn't a sport court, specifically because the definition calls out basketball courts. And it says, which may include a full or partial enclosure or fencing protecting the playing area. It doesn't say it must have a fencing enclosure, and it clearly calls out basketball. So, that's why we issued the notice of violation to them and required that they come before you all. So if you are changing course, we need clarity on that for future enforcement action.
I don't know, if we're changing it. I'm reading this as being in this context ambiguous, and that I don't feel like any of it is surrounded by a fence. I feel like they have a fence around the entire property. Part of it happens to be up against this court. They have a fence along the top of the wall so no one falls over, but there's really no fence around this court. It's not a full-size basketball court. It's not even like half a basketball court, just like a hoop with some turf or whatever you call it underneath it. I don't know. It's definitely this. It's not a great fact pattern because you went up so close, like it's really aggressive. Like if there's a gray line on what's a court, this isn't a good fact pattern because you really made it look like a court.
Right, I mean, and I would also say, to Mr. Caratu's point, the sports court in and of itself, up against the property, you also have a unique piece of property in the sense that it is right up against Mead Park. And it is, I'm just saying, because that's one of the factors of your property unique, is it's somehow different than others. And the location of the sports court, had we come in earlier and asked for this to be done, one of the main things that we certainly would have brought up to the attention is that, we are surrounded by two sides of activity. We have we have a tennis courts behind us, which are probably on the property lines as well, is my guess. I didn't look at that from
Yeah,
that
I
perspective.
respect that, but if it was for the house, two-car garage, fine. The homeowner knew when he bought the property, you had Mead Park there. There's advantages to it and disadvantages to living near Mead Park. But for this town to issue a hardship for a basketball court, anyone coming from out of town, or just, how do you issue a hardship for a luxurious sports court? I mean, cut the thing in half and the wall should be where it's supposed to be. I mean,
Well, they were also,
Well, the sports court doesn't have to do with the wall.
right.
They're two separate issues.
No, I know,
One's the
but
But it's
wall.
the setback. It's
Yeah,
the
It's the
setback.
setback. It's
And
the
I
setback.
recall when we went through this last time, it was the description of, okay, did it need to have a 3-point level of marking?
Right,
And this
right.
much space on it? Is that incremental need for a family a hardship as opposed to a very nice sport court that would have been just fine, but not been 3-point for LeBron to practice?
Where's the sports court definition again?
So it's on page 38, tennis
maybe
and
we
other
should go
game
through
courts.
38.
I mean, I'm trying to get
What
there.
section is it?
I'm trying to
It's just
get there.
it's just in definitions, page 38.
I read it this afternoon.
well, I
Already
mean,
before
and also
now.
the pool had been built. So, they did take the property
geez.
with what was there today. And with that pool being in that position,
38.
Tennis and other.
Oh,
games.
tennis and other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
that's okay. So with the pool already being in existence prior to the sports court being in there, they are looking at a property that already had a structure there, albeit it was their structure.
Yeah.
I'm not arguing that. But in order to actually put any sort of a basketball court in, anything that you could actually utilize, you had to put it in a certain position based on the fact that I think Mr. Quinn was saying that you need enough room around the pool to service the pool itself. So the pool, yes, the pool acted as something that forced it to go towards the property line. And that's what this owner was particularly dealing with.
Yep.
What he should have done was come beforehand to this board and talk about that and the hardships that may exist based on the fact that he has the pool. But I go again,
Connect it to the drive. Like,
I'm
why-
sorry?
Why do you have to go down this hole about if it's a sports court? Why don't you just connect this to the driveway and just have it be like a driveway like anyone else would have for their basketball?
well, I think it's already been determined that it is a sports court. So I'm not sure that we can,
On the opposite side though, isn't it?
Couldn't you just go down along the property line, isn't on the left there, and have the driveway, so you just drive into it, you know, and it'd be like an extension of your driveway?
that may or may not create more impervious surface that I'm not sure.
So that's why you can't connect it, is because of the impervious.
I don't know that for
So
a fact. I just-
driveways also have to be 3 feet off the property line, so there is still
There's not
some
enough room
setback
there?
issue.
Okay, you'd have a 3-foot line then.
Yeah, you'd have something that would have to be a little bit
Mm.
small from that perspective.
I mean, I think that's gonna be hard then, because how would you justify going closer to 3 feet? Because even if you put this in your driveway, like we're saying people normally would, it has to be 3 feet from the property line.
And we have a driveway already up against us, Mead Park is already up against our property line. I'm not sure how far away it is, but obviously that's a pre-existing condition for this particular site. So just to get back to the questions that have been asked earlier, once again, I mean, the hardship from our perspective is that we can't utilize the front of our property, at least not for a sports court of any type, a basketball court or not, based on the topography. And DPW has basically confirmed that because we're not allowed to make it any flatter than it is today. So that was, and then moving it to the backyard, based on the fact that we already have an existing pool in that particular property, we couldn't move this back further from the actual property line. I'm just talking about the sports court now, obviously not the retaining walls. We couldn't push it back any further based on the fact that we already had the pool there, and the pool in and of itself needed to be serviced, and you can't just put this thing right up against the pool itself.
So it can't be moved closer to the pool because it's only 10 feet and that's required, the 10-foot area.
I think it's just from a safety perspective and trying to actually service the pool itself, it would be very narrow. It'd only be about 3 feet on that patio edge on the east side of the pool.
Do you have photos in your presentation?
I did.
know last time there were
Yeah.
a lot, it might be helpful to refresh our
Sure.
recollection.
Let me go back to those. Oops. Okay, so here's the pitch of the driveway in the front that we were talking about.
In that area on the left up to the gate, if you look at it on the left.
Yeah.
See how it goes to that gate?
Yeah.
That's what I'm not understanding. The driveway goes up to that gate. Why doesn't that gate just connect to the sports court? And this is just a part of your driveway.
Well, I mean, the driveway does move actually up into
That
this
less than-
particular
is
area.
That less than the driveway width there?
Looks pretty tight, but I'm not positive exactly how. I mean, it's how many,
7.5 feet wide.
Yes, that's not a driveway. That won't work.
and so here's the rear of the property for the court. I think Mr. Snyder was looking for earlier.
Yeah.
And then you can see that this retaining walls this is one of the retaining walls that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just find this. So I guess this is sort of the edge of the pool here. I don't know if I have a picture of that, actually. Oh, I'm frozen. What's going on here? This is sort of the edge of the pool here, the patio here. And this is looking down on it, towards Mead Park. And here's, I guess we were talking about earlier, Mr. Tashin, with the fence and the stone wall there.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, no, it's.
That's
And
what I-
then this was, we're not doing the landscape plan, but that was, what-
Is that basketball hoop permanently mounted, like it's concreted in, or?
yes.
So just, can you go back on the fence as to the concrete that was
Sure.
being discussed? Is that visible?
It'll be behind those bushes, because you're coming out of Mead Park, it's on the left.
Yeah, I didn't get a great picture of it here.
So is it below the white fence then?
Yeah.
What about this month?
There was lattice there.
Yeah.
There was about 8 to 10 inches of lattice, and then in order to support the structure, they suggested the.
If I can make that any bigger. Sorry, I don't know if I can make that any bigger.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm not
so I think on the positive side, we have this properties become more conforming over time. I mean, I view that as a factor. On the positive side, we have that they had to do some retaining walls and things to make it more level, because they couldn't do it, and the only place to do anything is the backyard, because they made it more conforming by moving the house forward. On the negative side, again, just talking with the court,
Right, that's as
back
long
to
as,
Rich's question, how do we say, let's assume this is a court and it can fit within that definition of a court? I mean, it's not, like you can say it's not within that definition. So it comes to the question then of why is the depth of this court required?
Right.
Like, why is it necessary? Like, if someone has a basketball hoop at their house, they don't necessarily have a court with a free throw line. I have one in my driveway. I highly doubt my son can throw it, that distance. I mean, so I think that's the question
Yeah,
I believe Alex and Rich have, is how is the depth of this necessary to make reasonable use of your property?
Well, if you look at this picture in the front, it just shows you how, if you did have a court here, how much more space you would have in that particular area. So, unfortunately, it's a narrow lot. So the way it comes back in the back of the property, I mean, it's not quite, it's only 70 feet. In the zone in and of itself, you're supposed to have 75 feet for a conforming lot. So it is a slightly more narrow lot in the B residence zone than what would be required if I was building new today.
And what's the material of that court? It's not AstroTurf. It's like a synthetic, one of different sort.
What is it?
the clay or,
The court itself,
oh, the floor.
the floor are rubber tiles.
Okay.
So essentially, we just kind of swapped the front of the property with the back of the property to make the court. It's still smaller than the driveway in the front. Sorry, I'm going the wrong way here. So here's your drive in the front. And then, it's not quite as large, obviously, the driveway, just sort of taking that back edge of the property, which would be this part right here. And we don't want to put a court here.
And it's 8 feet is the distance, Sarah. And the 3-point line is how far from the property line?
Well, I don't know. Is that a true 3-foot punt?
Yeah, it's a collegiate 3-point line, and from the property line, it's probably 6 to 8 inches, maybe a foot. You can see it right there.
It's not even quite right here. I mean, you couldn't even stand there.
it's collegiate, not high school 3-point.
What's the difference?
Just thinking about the hardship.
No, what's the distance? I don't know.
There was no lines.
Mhm.
If there was no lines, it wouldn't matter.
Wouldn't matter. 19.9 is a high school line,
Okay,
20.9 is a collegiate, and 23.9 is an MBA.
so what's the collegiate?
20.9.
What's spot 9 mean?
Oh, sorry, 20 feet, 9 inches.
It's about a foot difference.
Yeah.
It's not a big difference, high school. I mean, if I don't play basketball, from the zoning standpoint.
And we're also, as I said earlier, the light would be something that we would agree to remove, obviously, and then this sort of back corner here of the turf.
This is tough.
So it's tough. David, Attorney Rucci it might be the type of thing where it's best for you to think of a way you don't need a variance here.
Well, I mean, we've come this far to request of the board of the variance. Obviously, if the variance is not granted, we would have to look at doing something else. Or if the variance was granted with some sort of conditions as to maybe moving it, to a high school type of hoop rather than a collegiate type of hoop. I'm sorry, 3-point line. There's not much we can do about,
I was thinking on the possibility of what if your pole's like a portable pole,
I'm sorry?
like a portable basketball pole, I mean, like one that's not affixed. I mean, is it no longer a court then?
I don't think
Does-
that's the problem. I don't think that's really the applicant, what the applicant's looking for. I mean, I think he's looking for a space that he can utilize for basketball, which you can't.
No, what
do
I
in
was
front.
thinking was, is this no, if,
Does it fall outside the definition?
yeah,
of a court?
if it's something that has a, as a hoop, you know, like that you move around. You know, it's not permanently part of this.
So I mean, the basketball hoop isn't what's causing the violation, so I don't know if you have the authority.
But
authority to
without a
re-
hoop, it's not a court.
I would disagree. It's still a court.
Without a hoop, I don't think so. It needs
So
a,
if there was no lines put in, it wouldn't be a court, is what I'm asking.
yeah, the lines that make it the court. I mean, I think
Why
it's
I'm
the
asking.
hoop that makes it. the court.
I mean, it says a specially prepared level playing surface, so, I mean, you could argue no lines and you just put rubber tiles throughout your whole backyard. You know, we do say to people, if you wanna put asphalt through your whole backyard, we can't do anything about it, so.
So if he took
You could
took the
argue-
lines off, he could keep the court. Is basically,
I mean, this seems like if the lines are the issue.
I mean, they still need a variance for all the retaining walls, so I think rather than the board trying to solve the violation for the homeowner that, you know, that may not be the most productive option for you all, to try to solve this violation for them.
I don't think even moving, I think Sarah's right. If it's the surface that matters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
So just so I'm clear, am I being asked to do turf on this?
we're not
surface?
being asked for anything. I think we're having trouble and
We're just evaluating.
Well,
the
we're
status quo.
we're having trouble. I'm kind of like thinking this through of, and I think it's pretty clear that this is a court. That whether or not as a basketball hoop it's a court, at least I believe everyone in this is in agreement here on that. I think leveling the lot, people are in general agreement, it's reasonable to have leveled the lot. I think the issue becomes in granting the variance, it has to be a reasonably necessary use, and how is putting in something like this reasonably necessary? Very few houses have it in town. You know, like normally
But
someone
most
lives
are
in,
able to utilize their front yards.
but
of
they
their
might not
property.
necessarily have one like this, though.
No, but I mean, it would
They have a
probably
hoop in
still
their
have
driveway.
lines.
I don't know.
But just because you can't use your front yard, that, you know, I mean, a basketball court is not, yeah, it's nice to have, don't get me wrong, but, you know, it's not.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people paint lines in their driveways for this.
I mean, again, we're trying to get there, just like you understand, we go in front of a review
Sure.
with the decision, you know, and there's ramifications on us and the town, you know, we gotta we're trying to help, but we're having a tough time. And
So
I appreciate that.
I guess the first issue, the 15-inch wall on the Mead Park side. That they're going to put a stone veneer, they're proposing to put a stone veneer on. Is it, people,
Hold on, just. In terms of this overall matter, I do have more questions on the retaining wall
Okay, that's
on the
what I'm
west
asking.
side.
the west side being the uphill side or
Yeah,
the Mead Park
correct.
side?
So
So I was starting with,
however you
the-
want to do
I was
this.
starting with the low side, because I feel like that's like an issue maybe we can
Gotcha.
cut out of this, because it seemed like
Yeah.
that's the simplest point of view. That if there was a stone veneer, as they propose, that stays within their property line, that covers the 15 inches or whatever you can see on that corner of that wall there under the fence. I would see a hardship we're raising a lot, that 15 inches for that corner is reasonable. I don't know if other people agree, but I feel like that issue is not like something that,
So I would, if I could just jump in, I would say staff's biggest concern with particularly the west side, I think that faces the Mead Park driveway. Our concern is, in general, you are not permitted to have retaining walls on your property line or sport courts in general on your property line. So we have concern that, you know, this is fronting a public area, so people may see this and then think that it's acceptable, and then we're going to have a continual issue of this happening because people think it's okay.
Well, I don't think based on its location next to the park, I can hold them to like a different standard than someone else. I do understand that, but it's, I mean, the other option besides that wall there is essentially they would, I guess, taper it back this way on the screen, right? We're only talking this high.
So to be compliant, how far back would that retaining wall?
So walls have to be 8 feet
8 feet.
from the property line.
What I'm saying though is if they got rid of the wall, they wouldn't move the wall 8 feet back to get a 15-inch difference. You would just slope it up a little bit. You'd slope up the dirt a little bit and there would just be a small gap under the fence, I assume.
I believe there was a gap there before the,
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
what you're saying, 'cause
Yeah.
they had lattice on.
Which, because of the way that the drainage worked, all the water was running into the Mead Park.
I don't know whether that would, when you start to have a gap, I don't know what that would do to satisfy the requirements for a well fenced in pool.
Does the pool have a separate fence around it?
No,
No.
no.
Yeah, maybe you'd have to you'd have to put the lattice in like you used to have underneath it.
Right, a child can't be able to crawl
Yeah.
over the fence for the pool.
But animals do.
Yes.
That's okay.
There's plenty of them,
Yeah.
turtles, frogs.
Well, the engineers, is there an engineering reason why having that fence assists with the drain? I mean, not the fence, the wall is required for the drainage system here, or that wall on the Mead Park side, does that, is that part of, directing the water in a direction or anything like
But
that?
it certainly helps. This is Tom Quinn again speaking. It certainly helps having it there because we're proposing to do a trench drain along the edge of the court, run it into our galleries. If we ended up with a 3 to 4 foot wide area there that was just vegetated, it would just be a nonstop erosion nuisance. So it certainly is the better way to do it, is to have a vertical wall with a drain on top and not have 3, 4 feet of planted area there. It's just gonna erode every time it rains.
so on the other side, I would just like to point out that this house was issued a CO with the pool and the patio and the home as proposed in 2023 without these improvements. So it did meet the town's policies at that time, and there were multiple inspections. So I'm sure it
Okay.
helps, but
Okay,
Well, and if I recall, even as you used to come up beyond that, you used to see prior to this development, lots of things coming down from that into that little space. I mean, I recall that just, from an institutional perspective, coming up and down, there used to always see that house sit on the top of that and, dirt come down onto that. Granted, to the town planner's point, once it was done the first time, it certainly helped, but this is only helping it even greater than that.
do you have a proposal or an idea to make this, to address the court issue?
I mean, the court hardship stays the same as I said before.
No, but
what-
changing the size, doing something, changing the surface.
I'm not sure how much more our client can move the court further away from the line. On the Mead Court side, on the driveway side of Mead Park. Whether or not he puts in a portable hoop somewhere and changes the surface somehow. I mean, I think once again, it's really gonna be up to the town planner what they think describes as a court. I mean, right now, their position is it's really the surface of the court. It's not the hoop itself.
That's what it says. She's reading it correctly.
Yeah.
I'll just, add in, as I was alluding to before, we will work with the applicant if you all, chose to deny the variance to try to bring it into conformance. It's just, the decision that you all have is whether you should grant the variance or not whether they could change this to no longer need the variance. We will work with them to determine that
I know, but
if it's necessary.
I'm hoping that if there was something they could do that allows us to maybe not create a variance on this issue and look at other issues, we usually try to narrow the issues down at least, as opposed to just denying an application, which seems like this is going down that slope.
Well, I would say in and of itself, the retaining walls would be something that we believe is a variance
would be required for us regardless of what we do. So that in and of itself, separate from the court itself, is something that we would still want this board to look at separately from the court. Obviously, we're looking for the court to be granted a variance as well, but the retaining walls are something that's important to this site for a number of different levels, and it will certainly help us moving forward if we have to make any sort of changes to what's back there now as far as that plane surface goes.
So were the retaining walls in the original plan that was approved in 2023?
No, these are new when the court got put in. These walls.
It was essentially, if you look at the side away from Mead Park, gonna be straight, and instead they cut it back.
Yeah.
Essentially to create more area next to the pool. So what is there, this is, I guess, a question for the engineer, but is there, and I don't know if you really addressed this, is there some need for that wall to be where it is versus if it stayed straight with the existing wall?
Which wall specifically are you speaking about right now?
The wall on the side away from Mead Park.
Oh, the southern wall.
Okay, I guess.
Yeah, I think that southern wall provides 8 feet around the pool. If that wall, because right now the pool is 8.1 feet off the southern property line. If that wall weren't there, you wouldn't have any way to walk around the pool.
But the pool was approved with that wall in a different location.
Yeah, I think what was happening then was the earth was sloping down from the southern property right towards the pool. So this definitely enhances all kinds of drainage and access around the pool. Could it be done? Yes, there was a building permit for the pool. But this is the easiest way to say it. It's a better situation for use and for function. Drainage. It doesn't need to be as tall, though. I think you asked that part. So where it's only retaining 1 foot of earth along the eastern end of that wall, it could be reduced in height. It's just an architectural feature that the top of the wall is the same elevation.
So I don't know if we have a full-size copy of the plan tonight, but the original wall was how many feet? 8 feet exactly from the line?
Actually, the original plan for the permit for the pool didn't have a wall there at all.
The existing wall section, there was, I thought the section.
We're talking about the southern wall. Southern wall. That's the southern wall.
Yeah, in this see before it jags back.
No, this is the southern wall.
Okay.
This is the western wall.
Okay. I think you're talking about the
I'm
western.
talking about
wall.
western, so that western wall is 8 feet off the line, is not an issue with it?
Yeah, so for the building permit, neither the southern wall or the western wall were there for the pool. I believe for the building permit, for the house, I believe this wall ended here.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember from the other plan, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
And that, a stretch of wall after where it ended is compliant or not compliant?
That is not compliant. That's the
That's what I
section
thought.
that
That's what I was
it's 3.5 feet. It's 4.5 feet from the property line instead of the required 8 feet.
That was my question, so it's 4.5 versus 8 feet.
Right, and that's allowing him to have more space around the pool. Yeah. Instead, it's sloping into the pool.
But I mean, if he continued it straight along there, though. He would still have the same distance around the pool that he has at the corner.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I'm not. Unless there's like a drainage issue or some other issue, I'm having trouble understanding why that has. What's like the need for it to jag back there?
Just to give more space.
But just to give him more space, I'm saying is,
So I'm just giving the reason, I mean, why? I mean, you could put a chair there, you could walk around it.
that's what I'm asking.
I-
Can you
I'm with
identify a reason why it has to be, why it has to jag back there?
Other than the reasons I've given, that definitely enhances everything you just mentioned, as well as the drainage coming from the western property. Because it does allow a greater area of infiltration between the bottom of that wall and the pool. You have, I think it's 10 feet of turf there instead of, you have 8 feet of turf there instead of 5. So basically, if 67% increase in an infiltration area there.
Before it goes to the pool.
Yeah, it could be an improvement, I guess. I don't know how that,
It's definitely a drainage improvement.
but the drainage complied either way.
Yeah, it did.
With the 100-year or the 25-year?
25-year was all that was required back.
Because now it's the 100-year.
So
So I mean, again, it's a reason to improve it, because now that you're doing this, you're supposed to be doing better than the 25-year.
this helps us do better than the
That's what
25-year.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
So drainage requirement until like recently was a 25-year storm, now it's a 100-year storm. So this was built to the old requirement.
It became 100-year July 1st this year.
So improving drainage where there was a drainage problem before.
I think, if there's a neighbor that is, that would be helpful. I don't know.
Yeah, are there any neighbors here for or against this? Letters of support for or against it? Nothing?
Okay. That's easier.
Doesn't count in his basement. It's still doing whatever he wants.
But that only gets you one wall.
I know.
This other wall is.
Yeah.
I still don't see how that drainage issue creates hardship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the southern wall a little bit better now that? That's what these two sections are about, is the southern wall. So this is the southern wall. And the sections are designed so when you follow these, that means you're looking in this direction.
Yep.
So when you're looking in that direction, see that, in section AA, you've got the turf, and then the wall, historical grade above.
And when this was approved before, there was no wall there.
There was no wall.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the other issue.
David, I think.
Something is
Yeah.
approved, yeah, something is approved by the town, that stuff was done without the town's approval. You come to the zoning board of appeals so that we give a variance to override what the town said should be done. I'm sorry, again, it's nothing, I feel so bad, but we're under a responsibility with state authorities. I mean, I don't, that it just is not the right function of this committee, in my
I
opinion.
mean,
I
I've
apologize.
tried to think through hardship here. I'm really struggling with this. I tried to think through if we can get out of the definition. I've tried to think through what could be a hardship here. I mean, if it might.
We're asking for trouble.
It's like
Retaining walls in and of
it.
itself, though,
But David,
are,
David, the town came in, issued permits for what he was allowed to do. The homeowner exceeded what the town told him was approved. He goes ahead, or she or he goes ahead and does something what the town did not approve, then comes to us to get some type of variance because he didn't follow what the town and did not go back to the town to get the town's advice.
no, I'm not, I
There's
totally
no
understand that.
hardship.
No,
I mean,
I understand that part of it, but
I'm a no, I'll tell you now, so
Right, but-
I don't see it, and I think we have a responsibility to the state. It's,
David, there's 4 people voting here tonight.
I understand.
so I'm only one.
But I will say that obviously, unfortunately, this happens. People do come back for after the fact permits and the way,
For dealing with a pool and a sports court?
no, I'm
I
just,
mean, I could see if it was a bathroom or something necessary. I mean, we look like, David, it's
Well,
just
we've approved,
unreasonable.
we've
But it's-
approved pools before. That, gets constructed too close to the line or something. I don't think the issue here is the pool. We're not approving the pool. I mean, if they said, well, something changed, do we need the safety issue or
But the
something?
town gave a permit the way it was, and whoever advised him to move the wall back so he has more convenience of space around his pool. It's a luxury. It's not a hardship.
right, but the only thing I'll say, and I understand what you're saying, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but obviously, he also could have come back to this board prior to doing this work. And even though it had already been approved by the town, he still can come back and ask for a retaining wall to be.
Yeah, but
The
this is
answer
after
would have
the
been the
fact.
same.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying, it's not necessarily like, this was already approved, so we could only do that. Of course, we could have come back and
And
done
the
that.
answer
ahead of
would have
time.
been, in my opinion, no. In
Well,
my-
we're asking you to look at it as if It had not happened.
And I would have been no then and I'm no now because it's not a hardship. That's necessary. I'm
It
sorry.
is improving the drainage though,
But that's.
on the
it-
property.
But it's compliant though. That's the
It was
problem.
compliant in July 1. This is
Like if he
better.
decided to put a court on it now and he had to submit a new drainage plan, and the new drainage plan can only be built if he moves the wall 3 feet
Mhm.
because the drainage code closed in July, then I think that's a hardship. That's not our fact pattern. This is already done under the old standard.
It's also, it's a court. It's not like, to Rich's point, it's not necessary to the structure and living in the house. It is a luxury.
I mean, I expected you to come back with some like concessions. I mean, not concessions, but you adjusted it because you would have known this is such a hard thing, hard application. And this is the same. Nothing's changed.
Well, we were asked to come back to say what it looked like from a pre-construction to a post-construction, and whether or not the retaining walls would have been something necessary to do at that time. That's actually what we were asked to do. We weren't asked to necessarily change the court in any way, shape, or form, or the retaining walls in any shape or form. We were asked to come back with a pre and post look at this property. We had our engineer go out there to look at those particular things, come up with why we came up with this particular, why we did what we did, or why we were requesting what we were requesting. That's actually the way the hearing had gone last time, and we weren't asked necessarily. Of course, we knew that the sports court there was concern, and we knew that there was concern also with the retaining walls. But that we weren't asked to come back necessarily with concessions with this. I mean,
No,
this-
usually you have something, though, like there's nothing, you're basically like, it's a take it or leave it position on.
Well, we've said we were gonna remove the light on the tennis court, said we're gonna remove a portion of the court itself that was in the setback. We said that we were gonna redo the stone wall from, put veneer on the stone wall itself. I mean, if the position is that we can just asphalt the backyard and put up a court, then maybe that's what my client has to do. It seems kind of,
Sarah, if this wasn't painted, if the court, if they,
I'm not prepared to make a determination like that at this meeting. I was not asked to prepare that, and I'm not going to make a formal statement about the court tonight. I'm happy to work with the applicant in the future, but I have no intention of coming up with a solution tonight.
Chairman, the issue is they can't come back after tonight.
You have to close the public hearing
Yeah.
tonight with no new information. You don't have to vote tonight if you don't want to, but you can't accept any new information after tonight.
there's a way that, we could adjust this to grant it, I'd be open to it, but I have like no proposals in front of me or anything.
Yeah.
To adjust this, like, I don't know if removing the lines makes a court, I don't know if removing the hoop makes it a court, and even if you get the court issue, that wall on the whatever side, the uphill side there. Is a
I mean,
problem.
I would ask that you look favorably on the western wall because it does improve drainage as a potential hardship. And the southern wall, I mean,
We can amend that. It can be removed. The portion of it can be removed that's retaining, because retaining walls aren't allowed, and it can go back to the plan that was approved at the time of permitting. We ask that the eastern wall, since it's only 15 inches tall, remain.
So I'm a little confused about the request because it says we're being asked to provide a variance to permit the sports court, but nothing about the retaining walls.
yeah, there's a separate section for the retaining walls.
Okay.
Should be in our request for the walls. So, and there was two different requests, one for the sports court and one for the retaining walls.
Okay.
So that would be the eastern wall. We would request that variance be granted. The western wall, once again, we would request that would be granted, and the southern wall, we can pull back. So that we would not necessarily need a variance anymore for that southern wall.
Why can't, I'm having, what I asked before was why, on the eastern wall, why do you need a 15-inch wall if you just had a 45-degree slope there with grass? So it's like this high, like, why do you need a wall there? They were talking 15 inches.
That wall is what's helping with drainage. Again, we have shown that it's helped with drainage on the western side.
I mean, they are gonna tie that whatever through it, turn and drain through there to get the runoff from the pool to go that way. Maybe we could continue this to the end of the meeting today, decide if you want to talk to your client or what he wants to do. I don't want to have everyone under the gun here. I don't know if it would help you if you had some time while everyone's here to talk to each other. I think you know how difficult this is for us. Or do you want us to close the meeting now and vote on it? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is if you wanted us to, you know, if you wanted to take a break, talk to him, we can move on to the next matter, I guess, and if you wanted to.
I mean, the walls in and of itself, they're, you know, is not something that, you know, we think we've definitely proved that the western and eastern walls are things that have hardships and they're improving with drainage. The southern wall, we can pull back. You know, as far as the sports court goes, I can certainly talk to my client as to anything else that he can move one way or the other, but I'm not sure exactly what else we can do. We have looked at that a number of as to how to cut that back prior to this, long before we filed this variance application. But I mean,
I mean, you can read, you're an attorney, you can read the definition of sports court. Could be a different material for the surface. It could be, you know, especially prepared for playing basketball is your issue. I mean, there's things you could do to mitigate the ask. A lot of people don't have like a basketball court made out of these special tiles. I mean, that's what I'm saying, there's options here, and I, essentially, it's up to you. I'm trying to give you time if it would help you.
sure, we'll
I know
come
there's
back.
a lot of people here, but can I just ask a couple of questions for like ideas or no?
We don't have any more. We've tried.
No, that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking on like the southern wall that goes that no one seems to like. The fence and the yard is like 3 or 4 feet higher than where the land is, where the pool is. And yes, it was approved, to your point. What do people do there when you have rain coming from Mead Park and the tennis balls coming from Mead Park and all of that? What do they do in order to mitigate that? Because the
Well, isn't
fence
your
is-
property higher than that? So it's not gonna come onto it.
I don't know, no, it will all come onto it. So I'm asking the board's advice about. The advice I got was, look, your fence is higher. Your property line is higher than the pool. The pool sits almost 3.5, 4 feet lower than where that property height is. What do you do there? Because what we had done.
Oh, you're talking the southerly one.
The southern,
Yeah,
Oh, so
I'm
it's not-
saying,
yeah.
The other
Water
wall-
comes
the other
in
wall,
from
I mean,
Mead
if it-
Pictures of the southern wall.
opposite the pool, but
Section A and B there. So
Yeah.
on each of those
No, like
sections,
photographs of
the
it.
right side
Yeah.
is the neighbor's property.
I don't know if you're gonna be able to see, you kind of see it back there.
yeah,
But the fence continually goes up. And then the pool is sort of 4 feet below it. That's where those stairs are there. That's exactly where like that is. So. What would be the suggestion? Because the way that, I mean, again, you buy a property because you love the property, but. We were getting erosion and mulch and animals and all that other stuff there, and that's why the retaining wall seemed to have made sense to us.
I don't know, that's an engineering question.
But
And again, because we get these questions typically, you know, day to day. The town's typical recommendation is that if you're having drainage issues that aren't related to that aren't related to work that's regulated by building permits, is you hire an engineer to come up with strategies to armor your property. And, you know, we ask that the engineer come up with strategies that comply with the zoning regulations. So if retaining walls, you know, help slow down infiltration, we ask that they comply with the setback requirements. So
If I
that's,
move a retaining wall 8 foot in, it's gonna be abutting the actual, like, border of the pool.
Yeah, the cool.
And so I've just lost 64 square feet of backyard footage in my backyard for what? Like I'm trying to understand where
Well, you
this.
could have like a garden there, you could have other stuff, like not everyone like paves, like your entire back of yard is like hardscape, like it's very unusual.
Which
A
you're
lot of
gonna,
people
we
have like
don't,
Italian, but-
A lot of people have like grass and gardens and
Um,
plants and, you know, like that, so you're not necessarily lost, you just might not have hardscape there.
Yeah. Okay, understood. And then for the servicing of the pool, yeah, I mean. I would say that those are all personal hardships, not a really land hardship. What am I being asked for tonight?
We're not asking for anything, you're asking for a variance. For a variance, we have to find there's a hardship that runs with the land, it's not a self-created. Has to be a reasonably necessary use of your property, you know, consistent with what other people are doing, plan of conservation development, that type of thing. Oftentimes what we see is someone ask, they don't have a garage at their house and say, well, you know, is it, putting a garage in your house is pretty normal, so that's something we may allow. Something like this is a little harder because it's not a typical thing. What's, I guess theoretically though, you could come in and pave that, and it sounds to me like it wouldn't be specially prepared for basketball if it was like a brick patio, if it was, I mean, patios don't have to comply with setbacks. But this is a sports court. A sports court has like different requirements than other types of uses.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be bummed that I gotta turf it, but, you know, if that's what I have to do, that's what I have to do.
We feel your pain, don't get
That's
us
why we're
wrong.
trying here. to,
We're
like, come up
trying,
with a solution, but
we
we're-
feel your pain. It's just-
Yeah, I know where you sit on the retaining walls. I understand that one.
Yeah.
The court, I don't necessarily know where you guys kind of sit on that.
I
We're all
think where
trying to
we
make
sit
it
is
not a
that-
sport court.
I think where we sit is that you're not gonna get a variance for this court. It's gonna be, I don't wanna say you're not going to, but that is,
and
Going
so
to
I
be
don't get a
very hard.
variance for the court, what happens?
then it's non-compliant, then it's
And
an,
so I have to tear out 8 feet of the court and now I'm in compliance and that's the end of it?
or change the surface or something else.
but that's something that you can work with the
That's
town
some-
on.
Yeah, I guess if we didn't grant the variance, then you'd go talk to, then your attorney would talk to Sarah on a way to resolve this. Like when I was building a garage, Steve Kleppen told me, you're not gonna get a permit for the garage you want, a variance for it. Here's what you can do to make it so you don't need a variance. That's what got me interested in zoning, was the sitting down with Steve, who was a couple people before Sarah, and going through like, how can I make this compliant? Did I lose some things I wanted? Of course, you know, the walls are, it's not the same dimensions, the second floor is, you know, not a second floor, this type of thing, but if it's not a hardship that runs with the land, you know, then that is within our jurisdiction to grant a variance, then you have to work through a solution that fits within what's allowed. Even if, I mean, I had to change the elevations around it, I had to change some walls from, you know, certain heights to other heights. I mean, there was stuff done. And that's what Sarah's saying. She's willing to sit down and, you know, she's as bright on this as anyone's gonna be. And I mean, but you can proceed with the variance. You can have one, I just thought you might want some time, not in front of us, to talk between the three of you. And if you want that, I mean, we got something else on the agenda, you can go talk and come back when we're done with the next one, but, or you can just decide now.
Yeah, but it's not just the court, it's all the other stuff. But I don't know, again, what's being asked. Either way, I guess it's not gonna matter, it's whatever Sarah wants.
No, I mean, it's the retaining walls in and of itself, we believe we've proved the hardship for those retaining walls. And those retaining walls are what we're requesting as well as the sports court, so they're two separate items. We have shown that they are better for drainage on the property, they are protecting his property, which he should be able to do. He does sit on a slope, and it's from a topography perspective, so that there is a hardship based on the fact that he does have a topography problem in the back of his yards. And it's coming, he's downhill. I mean, he's the closest one down the hill, you can tell from even the other side of his property where the drop off is. I mean, you can tell right there that he's got a drop off coming off the back. And yes, he had to build up that stone wall in order to protect that back. It's only 15 inches tall. And he's got in the top of his property as well, has drainage, and as we stated last time, his neighbors didn't have any issue.
The westerly wall's 2 feet, right? Approximately.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the southerly wall is how tall?
2 feet, and then it goes down to 1 foot.
So the question, can we make a case, at least the southern wall that's far? So, I mean, they would say, why can't he just move it inward? And yeah, it's gonna cost them footage, but.
I mean, the westerly walls, water coming off the slope down the
Yeah.
hill. It increases the area, but I don't see why the area couldn't be on the other side of the wall. Like, it's very hard.
I know, that's,
I haven't heard a reason why this wall has to be where it is. That's. The wall on the other side, the 15-inch wall,
right,
to me is not an issue.
yeah.
If to level your backyard requires a 15-inch wall,
It's de minimis.
it's a 15-inch wall.
And just so I'm clear, the plans were approved by the town, but then these were changes in terms of the southern wall, the extension of the western wall. These were not town.
Correct, after the project was completed.
Yep.
He did additional work.
And how was it found, Sarah, again? When,
It was, I saw it from Mead Park and, you know,
Oh, you saw-
I saw it from Mead Park and inquired about it, and then I found a lot.
I do believe the topography next to Mead Park is unique on the eastern side. I think that is a very unique circumstance in terms of the drainage there and the impact that it would have on town property as well as the impact on this. There I can see.
That's the 15-inch wall.
Yeah.
What about the southerly wall? Because I struggle with that too. If you moved it 8 feet in, like it would accomplish everything you're saying you need to accomplish.
Right, and you're complying with the.
So I'd like to ask you a question if I can, then tell me.
No, ask
You did-
whatever you want.
Yeah, so after this was done and you decided, you know, or whomever to put these walls in, like why not go back to the town and after you did so much work with the town and say, hey, I'd like to do something else here, and, you know, and go to the town and see what they would want. It's sort of a bad scenario of, you know, Sarah kind of rides by and catches this thing, right? Like you knew enough, you were working with the town.
I don't know. I'm not gonna put him on the line to say whether this was nefarious or not, but I think someone building these walls could do it thinking it's landscaping at all. You know, I'm not building a structure. I would assume it could be an axe. It's not putting a generator or. pool
I did not
or
build
something.
this house. Anthony Tomas in town built this house,
Okay.
and the retaining wall was only required 4 feet past the structure. And then he had said, do you want to extend it? And I said, sure. He extended it, but then after he was done, I didn't know any different. And so the guy who came in said,
Yeah,
well,
no,
go
it's
ahead.
helpful to know that, you know, I
Go in and just make it less so you have more square footage and you'll have the sand and the turf there.
Yeah.
And I said, okay,
Yeah.
sure. But
Yeah,
I didn't
I don't blame you.
know you had to do structural stuff after that with the retaining wall, because they were Nico locks. It was almost like they're permeable. You could
Yeah,
move them wherever
yeah,
you want, as long
yeah.
as you had the fill. And I mean, I don't want to throw that guy under the bus because I really liked him, but that's what he came up
It
with.
happens all the time.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah, it
does.
seems like the fact pattern
Yeah,
doesn't seem
no,
like some of the stuff
I'm-
we saw where, you know, you question. I'm
that-
not
no, that-
questioning
it's helpful.
malfeasance or anything.
No, of course not.
And I think that also, I mean, when the applicant first came to me, he didn't know he couldn't put a sports court in the back of his yard either. He just didn't think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a basketball court. People put them in the front yard. Why can't you put them back here? So it was the same type of thing, you know, just not knowing
Truthfully,
the
if I
rules
had
and regs.
known, I would have sure as hell done asphalt instead of concrete. Like, I just would have done it just because that was the cheaper option, but I wanted the more long-standing option.
Yeah.
Because that's what I was, again, advised to do.
Well, if you asphalt this, then you run into issue two of your drainage is gonna get changed.
We would just have to comply with the drainage policy at that particular time, which would be
Yeah.
Tom's purview.
I mean, maybe you could use another surface like a patio or something, I don't know.
You would have
I
to do
could
something
be more
different.
sympathetic with the walls. You
Yeah,
know,
me too.
I could be sympathetic with the walls because
Yeah.
of the sloping of the property in the back, right? So.
So I'm gonna take down.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's-
I mean, every court I've seen when I've been on here
Oh, really?
has been like a tennis court, a paddleball court, something like that. Like, I'm sympathetic towards the whole fact pattern. I mean, it's just a question of what we can and can't do, and it's like, it's just too much sometimes.
Let them go and come back.
Come back like what?
No,
Kind of
later
like-
tonight. Well, I don't know how long the next.
Yeah, unfortunately, it has to be tonight, right?
Yeah.
It can't be continued.
Yeah, there's other people here.
I mean, if you wanna talk and come back, you can, otherwise we'll vote on it now, but I mean, you need a unanimous vote for the 4 people who are at the last
I
meeting who are
understand.
here and that.
If they need to, they're up against it tonight, but is there any restriction on them coming back to, if they don't get the variance? For them to seek a different variance in 2 months?
It would have to be different. It would have to be a materially different application within
A year.
a year.
It'd have to be something different.
It'd have to be something.
I mean, but if you come back with an application that addresses our concerns, I would think it'd be materially different.
And so in a vacuum, are we voting on all retaining walls as one variance and sport court as another variance? Or one, like, this retaining wall might be approved, this retaining wall would not be approved, like,
That's
does
the way
that
they do it.
what's that?
That's the way they'll do it.
That's the way they'll do it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They'll vote on each retaining wall and they'll vote on the sports court, all separately, as if there's 4 different variances.
And so just to be clear on process, let's say the sport court got denied and you didn't want to just rip it out and you wanted to determine, you know, a way to keep it that's a happy medium. What would happen next is I would go to the Planning and Zoning Commission to ask them for an interpretation of the definition of a sport court to, you know, get additional input from the regulatory body that wrote the regulations as to what a sport court is. And then I would, you know, provide that information back to you on what could in theory be done to make this conforming and not have to meet setback requirements. But it may not be possible and you may still be at square one, but that would be the next step if the sport court got denied.
Great. We'll take our 10 minutes. Is
Okay.
that all right?
That's fine.
Might be more than 10 minutes, not gonna rush like the next application.
Dave, are you representing everyone here?
No, 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 no.
This is the law. Yeah. Yeah, this is, this is like your issue. The law, the next one. With the
Yeah.
laws.
The next item on the agenda tonight, 29 Knapp Lane, formerly 20. I don't know what the difference is here, but 21 Knapp, oh no, 29 Knapp Lane, formerly 21 Knapp Lane. Zoning variance upon application Tim DiCamilio, owners for a variance of section 3.5.8.3 to allow the expansion of an existing non-conforming structure located in the 1 acre zone at 21 Knapp Lane, map 31, block 11, lot H29. Sarah, do you have the mailing receipts in?
I did not receive the mailing receipts
Oh.
from the applicant. All right. I have received the mailing receipts from the applicant.
Do you have them for all the,
Do you?
there's a number of them there?
Yep.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Tim DiCamillo. I'm the owner of 29 Knapp Lane in New Canaan and seeking a variance for the garage. There's an existing non-conforming garage on the property. The previous structure, the house that was there was knocked down by a previous builder. We bought the property and the existing structure was there. We built the house, but we were, because of the setbacks, the way we turned the house, we were only could fit a 2-car garage. So we thought we could use the existing structure and we looked at the structure. The structure's in extremely bad shapes. Footings are, structurally, it's unsafe. Things are caving in a little bit, so we want to redo it. Being that we got to redo it, the structure existing is only 17 feet wide, not wide enough to house 2 cars in it. So by asking for a variance of 3 feet would give us, just enough room to fit 2 cars in there, which will still be tight, but it would allow us to house 2 cars into it. The existing structure is currently an eyesore. I did have some letters from the neighbors who, and I forgot to bring them, but they complimented on redoing it. They had their approvals, but I did forget to bring those. So, I mean, I know we have the ability to redo it, but if we're gonna do it, I like to make it usable to house the 2 cars and not have them visible on the site. We can keep them concealed. So
So you currently have 1 2-car garage, you want 2 2-car garages.
the house, the building has a 2-car garage and then
Attached to the house.
attached, and that's an
Yes,
existing
yeah.
detached structure.
Yeah.
You can see from the site plan where it sits.
Yeah, no, I saw it too.
And it's partially conforming, partially non-conforming. Again, I don't know, I think you said 1958, the permits were pulled on it, so I tried to find stuff on it. I couldn't find anything on that existing structure.
Parking for 3 cars, so the 2 in the attached garage.
Correct,
And the 1 in the detached. garage.
correct.
You're seeking to enlarge the detached garage to make it a 2-car garage.
That's correct.
But he has the setback.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
okay, just want to make sure.
And the existing 1-car garage is obviously non-conforming because half of it's sitting over the setback.
Correct.
And there's no proposal to make it more conforming, proposal would make it more non-conforming because it'd be additional. You're
Correct.
not proposing.
There's nowhere to
build
go
this
with, yeah.
And move it in. I mean, you probably just heard our last application, but we have to find that the.
Correct.
Necessary use and a hardship. We've done 2-car garage variances before, like if a house doesn't have a garage.
Mhm.
I can't remember us ever saying you need a garage for more than 2 people. I mean, more than 2 vehicles.
Mhm.
So that's not saying it's not possible to have it. But I mean, it has to be a reasonably necessary use for the property, and a lot of people have just garage 2 cars. And then it has to be a reason why you couldn't make your new garage compliant.
Mhm.
You know, like is a, like a cliff, is it, like we were just
Well,
in the last application.
if you look at the property's kind of a pie shape, and on the right side of the property is all your septic. So you can't put it on that side. On the left side, it narrows out. So the only way you can get out of the garage where the driveway is on the left side. So if I was to move the garage in, it would pretty much block the whole driveway access.
So you couldn't move it, southeasterly in. Go closer to the house.
No, because
it
he's
still
gonna
won't-
turn in the driveway.
Correct.
Yeah,
Thank you.
he couldn't make a right turn into the driveway. Because he's coming from the
He's coming
street.
this way.
Yeah, and then if he moves it in more, he can't access his house because his garage is here.
Yeah, that's where he parks now. It's like if you
Yeah.
moved into this area here.
He can move it. I mean, can you move it? I mean, I thought didn't think so, but can you, if you moved it, do you have room to move it towards the street,
If I
toward
move-
Nap Lane, where you still would have access?
If
to
I
it?
pulled it in, I wouldn't take that whole court. It wouldn't have enough room.
You wouldn't have enough room.
It'd be
Yeah, I didn't
tight.
think so.
Yeah, it would be
was.
too tight.
But why couldn't it move south westerly?
More toward the back of the house?
Yeah,
Like, can you move it
like that direction.
more in the back of the house so that you would kind of have to drive in the back of the house and go?
No, so he would park here and here, and then he'd drive into the garage here.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
his
that's
garage
what-
moved that
yeah,
way.
yeah.
I think you don't see the grade of the slope there is actually pretty high grading. So I think by pulling it forward, I would have to open and regrade that hole in order to make the driveway up. And then it starts getting, the grade increases over the required pitch and it starts getting really steep. Because of the drop off on Nap Lane really drops off.
How would moving it southeast closer to your house make it? I'm sorry, I'm not following.
You want to go south, but going southeast, I would have to pull the whole thing in.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, number one, I think aesthetically, it's going to look like it's on top of the house. It's not going to look as natural on the property. It's going to look like it was just stuck there.
At least 3 feet. Like, can you move it
How many feet out, how many feet over the line is it now?
It's like half of the garage is over. So it's probably about,
It's 6.5 feet from the property line where 25 is required.
19 feet.
19 feet.
And what's the existing dimensions?
It's 17 by 24 right now.
And you're proposing to make it what?
20 by 24. So it'll be 20 feet wide, increasing it 3 feet to the western side.
And you couldn't, I'm just thinking out loud, so facing the house,
Mhm.
you couldn't move it in back of, 3 feet in back of the house? Like 3 feet, instead of going west, can you go east?
Go east.
See, the problem that I'm having, and I think everyone else on this board would have this,
Mhm.
is the first step of this is it has to be like a reasonably necessary use of your property, like essentially depriving you of the ability to use your property, you know, without doing this. And to say someone needs to have 4-car garage to reasonably use their property, it's a very difficult position to make.
Understood.
But if you could make it more conforming than the existing garage, that'd be like a positive factor. Like if, even if you built a new garage, you're gonna need a variance because it's non-compliant.
Mhm.
But if it's, say, 6 feet from the line now, and you say, I'm gonna move it southeast, and now it's gonna be 15 feet from the line. I mean, you're making it more conforming over time,
Mhm.
and that's one of the goals that we try to do, is have things be more conforming, not
And
more
not conforming.
non-conforming. Here, we're making it more non-conforming. So you'd need a variance either way, because I don't think you'd be able to get the whole thing in here.
No.
But I think where Rich and I were going is if there's 2 grounds. One, it has to be reasonably necessary. Some courts have said, well, also making it more conforming is alone, making it more conforming is alone sufficient to grant a variance. So it's gonna be very difficult for you on the first step here to argue that people in New Canaan can't use their houses, or I can't use my house as a side, I can't park 4 cars.
Mhm.
So I know that this has been said a lot, but there has been a case, Amendola versus ZBA of West Haven, that basically held that the reasonable use of the property is met when the use to be allowed by the variance is consistent with other uses in the area. So just keep in mind you can have up to a 5-car garage as of right in New Canaan. So
Doesn't mean everyone there has a 5-car garage.
correct. I just want to make sure that
No,
the
but
board
I'm saying, if you look at the
understands
neighborhood and everyone in the neighborhood had a 5-car garage, and you only have 2 cars, I think that's how we've always looked at that. You know, is not necessarily what's the maximum we would allow in town. Yeah, but, so we're saying the same thing?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's, I mean, I don't know if you want, what you want to do here
Okay.
on this, like if you want to try to make it more conforming and come back. Or if you want us to discuss it more, you want us to vote on it. I mean, we try to be very, as
No, I understand.
as amicable here as we can, like we try to be non-adversary, we all live in.
No, I,
volunteer
absolutely,
time,
absolutely.
But we're confined sometimes by what we can do.
Mhm. I'm just looking at if I can, because I could rebuild an existing location,
Correct.
fix it,
I don't know if
correct?
you could.
So yes, you
Yes,
are
you can.
permitted to demolish a non-conforming structure and build it in the exact same location. That's
Even though
permitted
this-
as of right.
Even this one's not grandfathered in, right? 'Cause
It
it's
is-
just-
It is grandfathered.
It is grandfathered.
But it was non-conforming when it was originally built as.
Correct, but after 3 years,
Okay.
state
So he can
statute,
do it the same spot.
he could do it the exact same spot.
And his point was, since he's doing it,
Correct.
No,
That was my point. If I gotta redo
I
it,
don't-
I might as well make it
I don't
usable.
blame you for asking.
That's,
I
yeah,
would.
that's all. If I'm gonna redo it and spend the money, I just figure make it usable
Yeah,
for,
I understand.
That's why I was saying.
and keep the
instead-
site clean and keep the cars off the driveway, that's all.
Instead of trying to stay within the same footprint, what I'm saying is trying to move this to make it more compliant,
Yeah,
as opposed to what you could do as of right, which is stay on your footprint.
And the problem is, if he brings it forward, he can't get into his existing house. That's the problem.
He could move it easterly, and then there's gonna be less square feet in the setback because of that jag there.
the distance from that corner of the garage on the eastern side to the house, it's only like 12 feet. So on the angle of the property, when you drive by, if
bigger.
you moved it over, it actually looks like it'll be on top of the house. It actually,
Yeah.
it looks funny. Cause we did look at that option of moving it, but it just, there's like no right spot where it looks pleasing.
Could you spin it so it's longer this
Yeah.
way?
Yeah, can you make it on an angle? Sort of.
What
We're
we're,
just
what we're
coming up
looking
with-
at is ways you could have less square feet of it in that setback area.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, so even if you add, how many square feet are you adding to it?
90 square feet,
How many square feet is it now?
17 by 24. So it's it's like 300 some square feet. 408. Thank you.
So what we're saying is that you could keep it less than 4 weight
Mhm.
in the setback. So if you moved your 90 square feet, like you twisted, reconfigured it, because you're only talking 90 square feet.
Correct.
If you could move it so it's non-conforming nature's going down,
That would help.
it would help.
Hmm.
You know, so if you moved it southeast a small amount, or east a little bit, or south a little bit, there's still, if you just moved it, and you're not talking necessarily big dimensions, especially because you see that line goes diagonally, so anything over there is gonna be more square feet. So if you move it a little bit this way, a little bit that way, it might make your 90.
What if I just pulled it up 5 feet and cut the back 5 feet shorter?
You're saying instead of making it 24 feet long, it would be,
I'll keep the same tip. I'm gonna try to pull the garage up 5 feet.
That would help.
that's what we were saying.
Yeah.
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 Just pull it up a little bit so that,
And now, do you need the 25, you need the length,
That's what I was asking
the
too.
24 feet length for a car? I mean, I know that's
I mean,
what
I-
they normally build, I get it.
typical garage is what, 24 by 24 is
Yeah,
average.
yeah,
So it's, cause being that it's already 20 was still tight on the width.
yeah.
But I
Can you
can,
give up length? I mean, you're gonna keep the big expeditions in this, put them in the house and keep you small.
Yeah, maybe if you went
I-
to lengthwise, you could keep your 2 cars, but we're just saying and have it be 20.
Yeah, you
23
get your
or
width,
something,
but.
you know,
I mean, I could cut a foot or two back, I
that's
guess,
what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Yeah, that's what,
If you can somehow save on square feet here to make it so that
Mhm.
after this proposal, this is more compliant
Mhm.
than before.
Yeah, I mean, I could pull it up a little bit and cut the back a little shorter.
that would help.
You're just
Yeah.
playing with little square feet.
And you have another meeting to come back and do that since this is your first time. So enjoyable.
Okay, could do that.
Okay. And I'm sure Sarah will help you.
Okay.
Like I'm saying, or Stephen, well, I'm just saying Sarah's so used to. We love both of them. So,
Okay.
okay. Is there anyone here for or against it? Anyone, this application? No? Okay. So what we're proposing is to continue it. Do you want to talk tonight or at the next meeting? If you're here, we appreciate everyone coming. Okay.
Yeah, sure. If
Sure.
you-
Are you all done for now? And then we'll let you come up it again to respond? No, I'm saying,
So you.
Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah, and then I'm saying you sit back in the chair, just swap
Okay.
for a minute.
Oh, sure, sorry.
A lot of what I'm going to say has already been said, but my name is,
State your name.
my name is Tito Saratani, 60-year resident of the property that's adjoining 29 Knapp Lane. I just wanted to bring up a couple points and then maybe respond to some of the things that was discussed already. So I researched a little bit on the town website of what constitutes a hardship and documents that were presented to you all. I don't believe any of them the listed hardships are actually hardships that would grant a variance for this. That's my opinion. The second is the existing garage now is well into the setback. 6.5 feet from the property line. Proposed addition, adding onto the west side of the garage, where there's a foundation that's already would put the garage about 4 feet from the property line. And I just felt that there may be other alternatives that could be explored. For example, moving it to another location on the property that would make it more conforming with the setbacks. And then addressing some of the items that were just brought up a minute ago. The owner had mentioned the grade on the property. Well, he changed the grade on the property. The property was not graded the way it is now, but when he built the new house, he raised the elevation. So if there's any issue with grade, that was a self-inflicted problem. He had mentioned he doesn't want to move the garage forward, which would have less impact on the setback because he doesn't want it too close to his house. Well, I don't want it too close to my house.
How close is what's your positioning?
Yeah, where is your house? Again? I'm sorry.
I'll pull it up on GIS.
That's great.
What's your address?
61.
So this square here where my mouse is, that's the garage. On 21.
Yeah, I don't know how accurate that is, but I would imagine that's the garage.
Wait, so the circle one is, okay, so his of the property is a H32?
His property's
H29.
H29.
No.
And this
Oh,
John.
it's the
is
same-
a
yeah, that's the same
garage.
thing.
H
So it's
32.
29 to see
Yeah.
the variance.
Yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry. Which map?
So this is pre-construction on H29.
Yeah.
Can you zoom in some more?
And that garage is
it?
the one that's standing and that's grandfathered in.
Correct. The
Yeah.
property line isn't fully
Well,
accurate on this. so
Yeah, but we get the idea.
I think it's pretty close.
Nah, it's not even close to being accurate. That looks like a lot more than 6.5 feet
Okay.
from that corner.
We don't base any decisions off of the GIS. so
Understood.
it's just-
And I'm not sure that,
Would I guess we'll ask for the next person, but so your driveway where's your house on this? What's right behind, it looks like there's a
H32.
that's a turnaround area, okay.
Yeah.
What's that gray area where next to 57 point, what's that area?
that's a tool shed area.
Your tool shed's right on top of the line too,
Yeah, that was built in the 1959.
which
Yeah.
they're both grandfathered in and they're both back in the line. I mean, they're both close.
I mean, but your tool shed kind of blocks his tool shed.
Yeah.
It doesn't because the grade where the gray areas on my property is considerably higher. What he wants to do, and then it drops down as it moves to the left. If he adds on to the left side of his garage, from my driveway, you have full view of it.
Yeah. Like where that 3.0, 3.0.
Yeah, so, but if you moved easterly there towards
That-
the H29, then
That
would-
helps you.
That helps you as well.
I would have less of an issue
That's what I'm
moving toward
saying.
the H29.
Well, that kind
Yeah.
of goes back to our discussion
That's what
before, where
we
if
are.
you move south
Yeah.
or east,
Yeah.
it would also help with, making it more conforming.
Yeah,
yeah.
And that would kind of help address your
Yeah.
issue as well.
Or if
Exactly.
you kind of could twist it a little bit, whatever, but it's closer to his house rather than.
What's on the line between your and his garage? Is the fence, is it trees? What's? Like your.
Part of
and his
it,
garage.
where the 57.24 is, are concrete, it's a concrete cubes that were built as a retaining wall back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And then as the grade slopes down, there's no retaining wall. It's just yard to yard.
Is it trees there? It's just grass.
There was a tree, but Mr. DiCamillo came on our property and cut it down. So now we don't even have that tree obstructing the view of the garage.
Have the two of you discussed this project?
We have not.
Did you have other points you wanted to make?
I'm sorry.
Did you have other points you wanted? to
Yes,
make?
he's saying that the garage is 17 feet. The garage door as it stands now is a 16'6" garage door. I don't think that garage is 17 feet wide with a 16'6" garage door.
They're saying
The
it's
width of
wider.
it, the width of it. 16 feet. You should be able to fit 2 cars in that garage. He
What the
actually,
surveyor says are the sizes, I assume what the size.
Well, this is his.
No, this is the survey. This is our KW survey.
No, this is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're looking at. You're looking at the proposed garage door?
I'm looking at the existing, I mean, if RKW.
This is
came-
existing.
I have it up on the screen.
The existing,
Yeah, right here.
what I have, it doesn't show any dimension on the existing.
I mean, but it's gonna be scaled. This is a, you know,
So we've scaled it and it's 17 feet.
17. And the survey says it's 17. Is the new garage, so the height of this garage, or if it goes higher, is that an issue to you? Like, does that make it more or less visible from your driveway?
It obviously would make it more visible, I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure if you have this plan that he submitted that shows the cars stacked on top of each other with a lift system. That's a possible solution right there. Keep the garage the same size.
Well, then it's higher. I thought you didn't want it higher. I don't have
I don't
that.
know if it's higher or not. That doesn't look that high.
So I mean, if they left the
It's two
footprint,
stories now. It's 2 stories, the garage now.
if they left the footprint as is, they would be permitted to go up to the accessory structure maximum height, which in the 2 acre, or is this the 1 acre zone? I think it's 25 feet, the max height. I don't know what the structure is now, but the maximum height is 1.5 stories, 25 feet.
I'm just asking for 24.
Yeah.
25.
It is 1 acre.
So he's,
You did it.
Yeah,
so
he's
so
fine.
you're asking for, he's asking for 25 feet, Sarah, and that's the maximum height.
He's asking for below.
What's he asking for? What's he
I can't
proposing?
read it.
Oh,
he's-
26.
Yeah, so he's,
So-
that's not a variance, yeah.
so the height's not the issue.
The height is not the issue.
No, I'm thinking ways though to make it more appealing to the neighbor.
Yeah,
I mean, if it gets an inch short, if it gets a foot shorter, it's also naturally the roof is gonna be a little shorter too.
I mean,
But he's in
it
his,
is one idea, if he makes it lower and a little wider, he gets his 2 cars in, but it's lower.
No, it's 2 cars either way. It's just you could theoretically put a lift in and have 4 cars. Have you ever seen those lifts? You like
Yeah,
store?
We run into a different issue there where that would put him over the amount of
No.
garage space allowed.
P and Z changed that.
Uh-huh.
Never, yeah.
mind.
Now, my point is if he didn't need the height and he's gonna redo it, maybe he would consider lowering the height.
he's already lower than the 25 foot requirement.
Right, but if he lowers it more, that's giving something.
How tall is the existing garage? Do we not have that? How many?
Like 20 feet now.
So it's like this is like 2.5 feet higher. Okay, well, you have anything else?
So the other point I'd like to make is he's asking for a 3-foot variance for 3 feet. Well, it's not 3 feet. He's claiming that he wants to move that wall 3 feet, but if you look at his architectural drawings, there's an overhang on all 4 sides of that garage. There's no dimension on it, appears to be 2 feet. So it's actually a 5-foot variance, which affects the left and the back.
I don't believe the overhang.
The eaves, I know they
I
don't count
don't
as
believe eaves
coverage.
count.
Yeah.
They get up to a 5-foot exemption into the
5
setback,
foot, that's what I
so
thought. Yeah, the eaves up to 5.
2 feet, sorry, 2 feet
2 feet
into the
into
setback.
it, so those don't count. We're looking at like the footprint on the.
Yeah.
2 feet, correct.
2 feet into the
They're
setback.
saying if you had like a really big eave, like over 2 feet, then it would count, but otherwise, when we're looking at the setbacks, we're looking like the grounds. The ground
Yeah.
footprint.
Okay.
But we appreciate your concerns. We have similar concerns on that, as you could hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Mr. DiCamillo, do you wanna? Come back up. Thank you. So I mean, I guess one of the points we have is that it sounds like it has to move this way.
Okay.
To try to make it so it's more conforming.
Either we rebuild it where it is, or if we want to make it bigger, maybe we propose to make it.
To try to make it more conforming.
Okay.
Because the hardship requirement is
Mhm.
probably, is gonna be very hard for you to establish.
Okay.
There's no requirement for someone to talk to the neighbor or try to work things out with the neighbor, but we always encourage that too.
No, I tried to, and I was very nice. I called him up about the tree because it was hanging over the
You're
garage.
not gonna like get.
No, I
involved.
know,
I'm
but I'm saying, I try to work with everybody. I'm not
if we
looking
come
to,
back here with like a proposal everyone agrees to, it's
Okay.
oftentimes easier. You know,
Right.
so,
Like if you two can get together and, you know, be sort of
so if there's things,
sympathetic to your new proposal,
yeah, so if
Mhm.
there's
it may,
things,
it may help. the
Okay.
if there's things that would help address his concerns, you know, it's something, you know, and if it's something that, you know, is probably helpful. To you, but it sounds like his concerns are pretty parallel to this board's concerns,
They're not required to.
but you're not required to talk to them.
gotcha,
I mean, but that's
understood.
people in New Canaan generally, you know.
Okay.
Try to generally do that. You can talk to Sarah too, but it sounds like it'd be not relatively easy for you to kind of make up that 90 feet somehow.
Okay.
Um,
All right,
I
point-
don't know
let's
if you
see what
can
we
do anything on the height a little bit. If you can do anything on the height, it sounds like that might be helpful too. You have 22.6 now. If it,
Right, like is the height important?
So only because the scale of it to the house is, if I squat the garage down, it's gonna look kind of,
Yeah.
it'll look a little funky,
the
yeah.
roof gets too flat. but if
Yeah, I
it's
get too
coming-
Yeah.
small looking, it won't,
Yeah,
But if it's,
Small.
I got it, I
if
got
it's
it.
coming in a foot though.
Yeah,
width,
it'll look like
the
a
roof's
greenhouse.
naturally gonna come
just trying to
down
match the
6
roof lines of the
inches.
house, just
I
so
got it.
it goes together and it
Yeah.
looks appealing, that's all.
I understand.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so you have something to think
Okay.
about, you want to continue, no, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's up to you. Do you want us to vote on, do you want to continue to next month?
We do it the next month and I can talk to Sarah what our options are and go from there?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you, I appreciate your
Thank you.
time.
We
Thank
appreciate
you,
you coming too.
thank you.
Yeah, and thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting is January 6th
Okay.
for those that.
Okay. Yeah,
Build a statue, you David, and leave it in this room.
Have my chair. So thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk prior to, after the last remarks. So moving forward, we would still request that the eastern wall and the western wall variances be granted based on the fact that they are helping drainage and there's topography hardship with those. We understand the southerly wall was of some concern from the commission. We would request that the commission allow us to move that wall 2 feet from the property line and not have it on the property line. That just gives us a little bit of area on the southerly wall to maybe do some planting or do any sort of, if any work needs to be done or something on that as we're actually recreating that wall. As far as the sports court goes, obviously the commission has given us a lot to think about as to potentially other services that may be available to us. And we understand that, at this point, there's not really anything that we can do as far as moving it in or, creating something less than the 8 foot that it's on today. So we're gonna, we understand that the commission is not thrilled with that, but we're gonna keep that request for the where it is today, which is on the property line itself, and understand that the commission has concerns about that. And, in the event that that is not looked upon favorably, we will work with the town planner and others in trying to get to a point where that sports court can remain or a different type of surface can be used that will allow us to still enjoy that portion of the yard. Which, as we talked about before, it is a narrow lot. So you don't have a lot to do. You can't use the front yard per se for something like that. And the lot in the back is fairly narrow, 70 feet versus the 75 feet. So once again, we're asking for the eastern and western walls to the variance be granted for those. The southern law, we're asking that the commission approve something not on the property line, but moving that 2 feet back from the line. And the sports court to remain in its current location, the request in its current location.
Can I just ask a quick question? I'm going to share my screen. Could you just clarify what the eastern wall is?
That's the wall along Main Park.
So we're talking about essentially the cinder blocks that are part of the sport court. Or
That's the eastern wall.
The southern wall you're moving in, you said.
No, the southern law is
so this,
That's
so,
the
They did the
southern wall.
pool.
so this is the southern wall that's on the property line.
correct.
So you're asking let's say you had to remove the sport court. You're asking to keep the cinder block
We're
that's
asking-
underneath the fencing essentially?
Yes, we're asking to keep that based on the fact that we are going to try to recreate space back there in one way,
Okay.
shape or form. And we're not sure exactly what type of surface that may entail, whether it's a patio or anything of that nature. So keeping that the way it is going to be important to utilizing that portion of the property.
Thanks.
In the southerly wall, you're saying would move 2 feet in from the property.
From the property line, which is where it is today, where the tennis courts are for Mead Park.
So there'd essentially be 2 feet between a fence and the wall.
Correct. So just to give us a little bit of area to work on that portion of it, to move it in.
And the other wall stays the same.
Correct.
Okay.
And the 2
I
feet
could
could
be-
be useful, I guess, for
Yeah.
plantings or something, put
Yeah,
some
yeah.
trees in
No,
there. or something, I don't know.
I could be sympathetic to the wall.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions, comments? I think the other conditions that they mentioned before are, the southerly and the easterly wall, they put the stone veneer on. And the white PVC pipe that.
As Tom said,
that would
has to run
be
into
run
the
into the
gallery.
drainage system.
Yeah,
I think the veneer is only on the easterly wall,
right.
if I remember correctly, not the
Yeah,
southerly.
yeah, fake
Okay.
the street.
Easterly wall.
Anyone have questions before we close it? So you need obviously 4 votes because 4 is voting.
I understand.
I move to close it,
Okay, second.
so, yeah, Alex, Rich and myself, for vote. Chad, any comments?
No, I think I understand it.
No further comments.
Rich, any?
No comments. I'm ready to propose that we vote.
So I, move that we grant the application as to the 3 retaining walls with the condition of the southerly wall be moved in 2 feet. The easterly wall have a stone veneer put on it. With it being confirmed that that stone veneer stays within the applicant's property line. The, 4-inch PVC drainage pipes to be connected to the drainage gallery that Rich mentioned,
Correct.
the one that currently goes onto Mead Park. Any other conditions?
The light.
No, we're not, well, I'm
We already
talking.
took
about-
The light has to be removed regardless. That's a
And,
violation.
I'd move that we deny the application as the sports court. So we grant it as to the westerly, southerly, easterly walls with the conditions that
You outlined.
the southerly wall come in 2 feet, the easterly wall have the veneer, and that drainage pipe be connected to the drainage gallery, and that we deny the application as to the sports court.
I second that.
I thought that this was going to be done item by item. If it's got,
We could do that. I
I
don't know.
mean,
Wall by wall
You're saying wall to wall?
or just the,
I thought we were going to look at each variance for each wall individually, and that's how we were going to vote. If that's not the case, I can respond to what you've proposed.
I mean, you can make them, I
don't have an objection.
don't have an objection. If you want to make a motion, I'll withdraw mine and you can make a motion as to how you want to do each one.
I would make a motion to do the voting item by item. Western wall, southern wall, eastern wall, sports court, and because I think a variance is being sought for each one.
That's correct. Don't necessarily, you're,
Okay.
so you would vote on, so you'd make a motion to allow it for the westerly wall? Any conditions on the westerly wall there?
On the westerly wall variance, exactly what you said.
So it is only
sorry.
one variance application, so having a condition for one, like, the motion should, you can individually discuss each item, but making a motion to approve this with the condition for this, but then denying this, but then having a condition for that doesn't really
That's-
work.
That's what I'm having trouble with.
All right, so in terms of where I am then, I'm fully supportive of what you described on the eastern wall against Mead Park. I am supportive of not granting the variance on the sports court. I am not supportive of the variance on the western wall and on the southern wall, as I don't see hardships.
It's obviously not gonna pass, then, 4-4.
That's using Kyle to his vote.
Yeah, no, so, so why don't you make why don't we vote on the motion I had, I guess, and then we'll do a second motion to just allow it for the easterly wall.
I mean, if the motion fails, the application is denied. That's typically,
Well, no, because my motion would fail, he'd then make a motion to allow it just as the easterly wall.
no, I'm pretty sure if you have a motion and it denies, the application's denied. That's what planning and zoning typically does, so.
But you can have more than one motion.
But so you need to have the two motions at the same time, then I guess we'd.
I don't. well, You can't have two motions on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, okay,
No, but my
Planning and
motion,
zoning
my
does it
motion
differently.
would
You
just
can do
not
your
pass.
way.
Someone else on the board, why can't someone else on the board have a motion?
you can do it your way. P and Z does it differently, but that,
So we have Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, a motion could be withdrawn and we can recraft the motion.
Yeah, we amend it. I mean, it's obviously not gonna pass.
Well, yeah, if
So
you're
we
not,
amend it.
if he's
It's not
not
gonna
gonna
pass, so
vote
what's
for
the
your
point? Yeah, it's
motion,
not gonna
then we
pass.
should just not make that
Yeah, so-
motion. And why don't you make your
Yeah, that's what I'm
motion?
saying, make your motion,
Yeah.
deny it as to the two walls and the tennis court.
And then we'll vote on that.
I'd like to know first, though, if we can have more than one motion.
I don't have Robert's Rules of
Okay.
Order with me.
Maybe have motion be amended before, okay, doesn't get us anywhere.
He's gonna vote against your
Yes, it's
motion.
gonna fail
It's gonna
anyways.
fail anyway, so
So-
we should just
Okay,
at least get something. I don't have a problem. I mean, again, he's,
I have a summary from Cornell. Give me one sec. I think you need to amend the motion.
that's what I'm saying, I think you make a motion to amend
To
my
amend your motion.
So I think you.
Okay,
that's how I've
so-
seen it in the past.
All right. I move to amend the motion that the chairman proposed, such as to remove accepting a variance on the southern wall and to remove accepting a variance on the western wall. So what would remain the same is the chairman's motion as it regards to how the eastern wall will be treated and how the sports court will be treated. Do I hear a second?
well, I second that, or else we're not gonna get any.
We'll vote then.
Yep, okay. Okay, move to
Alex?
vote. Alex, how do you vote on your motion?
In favor?
Cash in favor?
Rich Carity in favor.
Chad Buch in favor.
Motion passes.
Okay, so just to clarify, everything has been denied except for the eastern wall.
Correct.
So the eastern wall is permitted to
Correct,
stay and
correct.
nothing else. Okay.
Correct. Okay. Which was a building.
Yep,
This was
very hard.
the toughest one.
Other business?
Yeah.
You got the minutes?
7 minutes.
Nice to see you, Tom. I don't know if I ever met you in person. Nice. to see you.
Rich.
Yeah,
When you did your garage.
yes. Take it.
Did everyone review the minutes from last meeting? We have 4 people here.
I read the minutes.
It was a lot of tasks. The only change I have for it was,
There was a typo, I think I had.
well, it says, while Attorney Lampert's cover letter was not clear as to what he is appealing, he seems to be appealing it from a building permit. It seemed clear to me what he was appealing, and I thought that's what town council said, so I would not say it doesn't appear clear as to what he's appealing.
So would you like us to remove that sentence or?
We could just remove it, right? Luke, I know, I was reading that too.
Yeah, I would take that sentence out.
Okay,
I don't think that,
can I have,
it's just the sentence right here.
We all need to stay for the rest of us.
if you have to.
We've done it in like a minute.
Okay, as long as it's a minute.
I do have 2 other items.
Okay.
Oh.
You can go
They're
for one, but you're not voting, so
Yeah.
And so where is this sentence?
it's
Is that
just,
okay? Like, you
yeah,
gotta get the.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well,
Well, we appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This one, well, the train was not here.
That's
Bye.
So just that whole sentence?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, so with the change, anyone else have any changes?
No, I had that, so.
Okay, so I'd move then to make I'd move to allow the.
Yep, I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item on our agenda is the approval of the meeting schedule. Everyone should
Yep.
have it. I'd move. There, that's there.
Yep.
Okay, I'd move to allow the meeting schedule for next year.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And then I have one more item on the
Okay.
administrative that I forgot to put on. So I am setting up training for the Planning and Zoning Commission for January. We're gonna do like a remote only training session. I'm thinking it may be a good idea for ZBA to also have one, not at the same time as P and Z, but also sometime in January with our town attorney. Especially since we have some newer members, just to, a good refresh for our more senior members of, powers and duties of zoning board and appeals, but then, to also help our newer members. So I'm thinking like a 2-hour remote only training session sometime in January. Is everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's also the mandatory training for board members.
Yep, so that's once every 4 years.
So the
We did it
new,
last year.
so the new members. I don't believe Alex has to because you're an attorney.
He has to
I'm
be on
not
the
at the
board for,
training.
No, but you're an attorney, right?
Correct.
you have to be on the board for 5 years
Oh,
before
you have to be
you're
on the
exempt from
attorney
that.
and be on the board for 5
Yeah,
years.
before you're exempt from the training.
No.
Okay, so you have to go to the training?
No, but so this training would be for the whole board. This isn't.
This is
just-
separate.
No, what I'm saying in general, I'm saying, so we would have that training.
Which would count as training towards your so essentially all board members every 4 years have to have at least 4 hours of training. And so the town can provide that training for you all. And so since it is a 4-year period, we're going to try to provide enough of that training for you all here, so you're all getting the same information and that it's specifically tailored to the town. So you have 4 years from when you're appointed, or if you were on the board, you have 4 years from January 1,
Okay.
2024. So we're managing that and
Okay.
Okay,
we're,
so this will
Okay.
count towards that 4 years.
yes, the 4 hours.
All right,
So,
great.
um,
I mean, yeah, the 4 hours and the 4 years.
yeah. So, as long as that sounds good to everyone, Lolo or myself will be reaching
Sounds
out
great.
to
Okay.
pick
Yes,
dates.
thank you.
for-
It'd be in the evening, obviously.
Yeah,
right?
so it'd be like 7 to 9 o'clock, Zoom only, so you can do
Okay.
it from home. Town attorney.
I assume that's a public meeting, so we have to notice it and everything? or-
Yeah.
Okay.
We only have to do 24 hours.
I'm going to be
notice, but-
traveling a little bit in some other time zones in the second part of January. so
Okay.
you could just-
Okay, yeah. So, if there are any dates that don't work in January, just send them to me
Okay.
now, but we'll be reaching out to set that up soon.
Okay,
Sounds good.
are we off?
Anything else?
Okay, let's end the recording.
Okay. It's off, sir?